On June 7, 2021, Paul Murdaugh was working with the dogs at the kennel on his family's sprawling property in the low country of South Carolina. The property had a hunting lodge, and a short distance away were some sheds and the kennel. That night, Paul's mother, Maggie, was close by on the part of the property near the kennel. It was a seemingly normal night for the Murdaugh family, but what happened next was anything but normal. Paul was killed by 12-gauge shotgun blasts to his chest and his head. Then Maggie was hunted down with an AR-style .300 blackout rifle as she was trying to get away. It was a tragic, graphic double murder scene. There was a third member of the Murdaugh family on the property that night, Alex Murdaugh, Paul's father and Maggie's husband. But exactly where he was and what he was doing is a big point of contention. Prosecutors say he was there when the murders happened and he is the one responsible. But Alec and his defense team say he has an alibi and would never commit such a horrific crime. Tonight, we are live from Walterboro, South Carolina, bringing you all the latest from this big trial in this small town in the Low Country. I'm Vinnie Politan. Great to have you with us tonight. We are live at Fat Jack's in Walterboro, South Carolina. Great to have you aboard. What a day here in the Low Country of South Carolina. We are here, of course, for the Murdaugh family murder trial. And today was another one of those days inside the courtroom where there was so much important evidence. We're going to get to all of that. But I want to start with my first impressions because I landed in town yesterday. And as I made my way from Charleston at the airport, driving an hour, going past absolutely nothing. I mean, nothing. When Chanley was describing this town to us, I got an image in my mind. But it's a much smaller town than I ever thought, Walterboro, South Carolina. I mean, you're an hour out of Charleston, an hour out of Columbia or so, but it's a really small town. It's the type of place where everyone knows everyone. They're all really nice, and they know what's going on in their town. I mean, there are other places where we have trials where people are like, what case are you talking about? Why are you guys here? That's not the case here. Everybody knows why we're here. Everybody knows about this case. Everybody knows about this trial. But what I didn't realize was just how small of a community it actually is. And when I got to the courthouse, I saw the pictures, but to see it in person, absolutely impressive, the courthouse. First, you start with the beauty of it. You know, you're in a small town, you've got this beautiful courthouse. Where did it come from? When was it built? It's like 200 years old, designed by the same man who designed the Washington Monument. And it's been here for 200 years. It's your classic small town courthouse, because you look at it, it looks huge from the outside. But you go inside, there's one courtroom upstairs where we're having our trial, and there's another courtroom downstairs, and that's it. But what's also impressive about this courthouse and courtroom are the people who are working there. You know, you think small town, they don't know what they're doing, right? No. The security is super intense here. In a friendly way, but intense. I mean, I came into the courtroom for the first time, and somebody was looking at me, and I'm like, why is this guy staring at me? I'm like, who is that guy? And finally I find out he was the head of security, hadn't seen my face inside this courtroom before. Like, he can recognize every face from day to day, and wondered who I was because I was sitting relatively close to the Murdaugh family. And okay, I'm still good to go back in the courtroom if I need to. But that gives you an idea of the level of sophistication when it comes to them hosting this huge trial in this small town. What was even more impressive was the judge. You know, you sit in a courtroom and there's always some level of deference. And in this courtroom, it's a whole nother level. And I don't know if it's the people who are there, if it's just the way things always are, but when that judge comes out onto the bench, complete silence. And there's a little bit of rumbling beforehand, but as soon as that judge comes in, everyone knows the judge is in charge. And the way this judge is conducting this trial is absolutely amazing. I mean, he's not wasting anyone's time. He's clearly in charge, yet takes a step back and lets the lawyers try the case. But when he needs to step in, he says a few words, the lawyers get back in line, and the trial moves ahead. Incredibly impressive. What I'm seeing in this form of justice. Inside that courtroom also, I forgot to mention, the chandeliers. I mean, how many courtrooms do you go in where they've got like 6 chandeliers hanging overhead, helping light the room and shine a light on justice? Absolutely amazing. Now, when it comes to Alex Murdaugh, and I mentioned I've been speaking to people, starting at the airport, you know, Charleston, an hour away, everyone seems to have an opinion about Alex Murdaugh in this case. And it's somewhat similar. It's not 100%, but the overwhelming feeling I'm getting from people on the ground that I'm speaking to is that, yeah, they kind of feel like something's not right. You know, there's some incriminating evidence here. But most people, for different reasons, don't think he'll necessarily be convicted of this crime, which is amazing. Most big trials, you're on the ground, people are like, oh yeah, they're gonna get him, they're gonna get her, they're gonna, oh yeah. Not in this one. They feel like, a lot of people feel like, yeah, there's some evidence there, it doesn't look great. I don't know if he's gonna get convicted. And it's for different reasons. Part is the Murdaugh family, the legacy, all of that, but also the defense and having to prove it. And you watch this trial and you watch this jury, the way that they are watching and leaning into this case. And they're sitting there like 3 hours at a time. And that tells me they're being extremely serious. And when it comes to understanding and figuring out what reasonable doubt means to them, I think this is going to be, I've been saying from the beginning, a difficult case to prove all the way, beyond a reasonable doubt. Well, let's get to what happened today inside the courtroom, another big day. And amazingly, we heard from Alex Murdaugh again, the defendant. He hasn't testified, didn't take the stand. We're still in the prosecution's case. And he may never testify, but the jury has heard and continues to hear from him from the voluntary police interviews that he gave. This is fascinating. He's a lawyer, so he, above everyone else, knows he has a right to remain silent. Anything he says can and will be used against him. Well, prosecutors are attempting to use it against him. Let's take a listen.
I didn't see anything right then, no, sir.
Take your time.
You know, I saw Maggie and I saw Paul laying down. I knew, you know, I didn't know, you know, I knew it was bad. I went over there and, you know, I saw it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I called 911.
Okay. I know Paul had been getting some threats and getting some being assaulted from, you know, the boat. Who stands out in your mind, besides the boat incident, who stands out in your mind that would want to come after Paul and or Maggie?
I mean, sir, I can't think of anybody who would want to go to that extreme. I can tell you this, in riding around with Paul, he was his normal, bright, you know, just, he was a really great kid.
So, being a dad myself, what was the biggest issue you had with Paul? When you had to call him down and scold him or correct him, what was the biggest issue you had with Paul?
You know, I mean, irresponsibility. You know, he was ADHD. He was bad about jumping from, and he had so many wonderful qualities now, but he was bad about jumping from, he'd start this, maybe not quite finish it, do something else. And, you know, you'll find out from his friends he had clothes strung out all over the state. He did that with clothes. He did that with guns. He did that with my boats.
How is your relationship with Maggie?
Very good. as good as it could possibly be. I mean, you know, we had our issues, but wonderful.
And I'm just trying to understand the family dynamic.
I understand you got to do what you got to do, I promise.
What was y'all's biggest arguments? What your biggest the things that y'all would argue about the most, what would they be over?
I mean, we really didn't argue. I mean, she was a wonderful girl and a wonderful wife. And she was a great mom. She, you know, she didn't work. And she always said it was her job since she was privileged enough not to work. She was going to make sure she took care of me and the boys. And I mean, she did everything.
Finding somebody that's just going to randomly come up there that late at night that doesn't know the property, you know, that's... So, of course, I have to look within and then start working my way out.
So you feel like it's not random. You feel like it's intentional. I mean, planned.
I don't know what to feel right now.
I want to tell you one thing while I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Paul was really an incredibly intuitive little dude.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, he was like a little detective. And, I mean, Paul would, you know, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Fascinating insight into Alex Murdaugh. There he is describing, and specifically about family dynamics. Remember what the accusation is at this point. You know, at that point, he wasn't under arrest. They were just talking to him, trying to figure out what happened, right? But now he's charged with murdering both of them, so we're looking and listening to this in a much different light. Now, the jury got to see those interviews. There's a little bit of delay, as you've seen throughout this trial, between the evidence going in and being released publicly so everyone can see it. But we'll have that for you, if not later in this show, by tomorrow for sure. Alex Murdaugh on camera in this interview. But watching him listen to it is probably as interesting as watching him in the actual interview. Because again, a lot of emotion, whether you believe it or don't believe it, coming from Alex Murdaugh throughout this case from the beginning. All right, let me bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter, who has joined me here at Fat Jack's in Walterboro tonight.
Hey,
great
Vinnie,
to see you, Chanley.
welcome to Walterboro.
I didn't realize it was this small. I mean, I've been to small towns covering trials.
There's a Starbucks, though.
There's a but this is one of the smallest, and not everything is open every night. It's fascinating, the lifestyle and everything else. And for this trial to be in this community, an incredible dynamic. Let's talk about this second interview now.
Yes.
This one also takes place in a police car.
It does. They're in a police vehicle, much like the first one. He's sitting in the front passenger side. There's the investigator in the driver's seat asking the questions. This one, Vinnie, was an hour long in length. The first one about 30 minutes. This one's longer, so he elaborates more about what he did the day of the murders. And some things stick out for this. This is 3 days after.
Right.
This is the day that his father passes away. But this is before he knows his father passes away is when this interview takes place.
Okay.
And so what we learned here is he does not put himself at the kennels at all that day. That's consistent.
Never there.
Never there.
That's a big part of the prosecution case, right? A big part that he's telling this story immediately after, and then they've got something to contradict it, which we haven't seen yet.
Haven't seen that yet.
Okay.
The other thing that sticks out to me is that he gives more details as to why he leaves work early. He says he goes to work that morning. He's working on some motions in a couple of cases, including the boat crash case, a hearing that would have been coming up 3 days later this day, and that he leaves work early because Paul is home. And we know now that he was confronted at work with a check.
Right. Right.
And we also know that he got a call about his father going to hospice, and that's why he left early. So he doesn't say that today in this interview.
That's interesting. I mean, these are big issues, which you would think, right, he would remember.
Right.
These are two big, your father and being confronted at work.
He doesn't mention that. And then, you know, when you watch an interview, the prosecutor will stop at certain points, right, to reinforce what's said in the interview. Now, this was objected to after a couple of times, but the judge allowed it. there was one moment that stood out to me. Let's watch.
And you definitely saw a traumatic picture, and I know it's not hard, or not easy. I know it's hard. And sitting here talking today is tough.
It's just so bad. They did it so bad.
You asked the defendant about the traumatic picture that he saw of Paul and Maggie. What did he say?
It's just so bad. I did him so bad.
I did him so bad.
Yes, sir.
If we would have hung on that picture a little longer, he mouths, "That's not what I said."
That's not, so I did him so bad is what prosecutor saying Alex Murdaugh said, but he's mouthing to his attorneys.
That's not what I said.
That's not what I said, because that's arguably a confession.
It's a little slip.
Right. Could be a
That's
slip-up
huge.
/ confession, admission, however we want to term it, but he's saying that's not what he said. And to me, I know I'm listening in this thing, it's not super clear to me.
Right. It's either they did him so bad or I did him so bad.
We're going to listen to that again and again and again. That's a big, big, big issue. Let's talk about the emotion in court today and
Yes.
on video. Again, I mean, this is a guy who kind of wears his emotions on his sleeve.
He does, and he doesn't hold back. And you've been in the courtroom now, you can see him kind of rocking back and forth as testimony is unfolding. And it seems as though it's during the parts of either an audio or testimony about the injuries to Paul and Maggie and what they were like when he allegedly found them. There he is right there kind of doing that. He does that a lot throughout the day. And we can't really see his face sitting in the gallery, but we can hear sometimes. Let's watch.
A second shot, literally his head exploded, his brain flew out. We know there's hair and blood all over that door up high. There's actually hair and blood and pieces of his skull in the ceiling and around him. Assuming the first shot would not have been immediately fatal because it didn't hit any critical organs, he would have been alive for some period of time after that shotgun blast to the chest. But the second shot, as you've seen in the pictures, and you were there that night, wasn't his brain laying at his feet?
It was beside his left leg, yes.
Vinnie, it is difficult to listen to over and over again, the graphic nature of their deaths.
Here's the other part of it, though, right? Whether he's the murderer or not, he was there and he saw the results. Whether he did it or someone else did, he saw the results. And every time you describe him, I've got to imagine him almost taking himself back to that night.
Sure. And it also seems, well, to me, at first, he was maybe more upset when they would talk about Paul. But today, I think he was so upset about Maggie, too. So it is both, not one more than the other.
And again, this is, the jury can see him, right, in that courtroom. I was there. I'm seeing the back of his head from where I am, but the jury certainly can see him. So it'll be fascinating to see what they say at the end of the day about whether or not they feel this is all legitimate and he's telling the truth or not. All right, Chanley's staying with us the whole hour. She's not allowed to leave. Even if she's got some great food from Fat Jack's waiting for her at the table, she's got to stay. We'll be back. We're live again in Walterboro, South Carolina. Our coverage of the Murdaugh family murder trials continue. When we come back, we're going to talk about some sizzling cross-examination. Don't go anywhere.